The Los Angeles Dodgers fan base has barely had time to catch its breath because the offseason conversation around the league has taken another sharp turn. And once again, it puts the spotlight on the biggest names still shaping the market. When discussions like this start heating up, it is never just about one player. It becomes a broader reflection of how teams are thinking, how front offices are positioning themselves, and how the balance of power might look when spring training finally arrives. Right now, everything feels fluid, uncertain, and at the same time incredibly fascinating to follow. A lot of the attention has centered on the evolving contract expectations surrounding Bo Bichette, a player whose value continues to spark debate across baseball circles. Early projections had him landing comfortably above $200 million, which already placed him among the elite. Now, reports suggest his camp is aiming even higher, closer to the $300 million range, and that changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. When a number like that enters the picture, it is no longer just about talent. It becomes about years, flexibility, luxury tax considerations, and how much risk a team is willing to absorb over the long term. What makes this situation even more intriguing is the lack of a clear bidding war. Normally, when a player of this caliber reaches the open market, multiple franchises are tripping over themselves to drive the price up. This time it feels different. Teams are interested, but cautious. They are weighing the term just as heavily as the total value, knowing that committing 8, 9, or even 10 years can reshape an organization's payroll for a decade. That hesitation is exactly why this process has dragged deeper into the offseason than many expected. From a Dodgers perspective, this is familiar territory. Los Angeles is almost always connected to every major free agent, not because they will sign all of them, but because they have positioned themselves as a serious contender whenever elite talent is available. The front office understands that even being present in these conversations can influence the market. Still, interest does not automatically mean commitment, especially when contract demands reach historic levels. Another layer to this story is how one signing can ripple through the rest of the market. When a top infielder comes off the board, it puts pressure on teams that missed out. Suddenly, their options narrow, and urgency starts to creep in. That is how values escalate. One deal sets a new benchmark, and the next player uses it as leverage. This chain reaction is a huge part of why front offices sometimes wait, hoping the first domino falls in a way that benefits them rather than hurts them. For teams like the Dodgers, roster construction matters just as much as star power. The question is not whether a player like Bichette can produce. That part is obvious. The real question is how he fits, both defensively and financially, alongside an already star-studded roster. Every additional long-term contract compounds the tax penalties and limits flexibility down the line. Los Angeles has shown a willingness to spend, but they have also shown discipline when a deal does not align with their broader plan. Across the league, there's also a growing sense that patience might become a factor for players as well. Missing time in spring training is not ideal, especially for hitters who rely on rhythm and timing. The closer the calendar moves toward camp, the more pressure builds on both sides. Teams wonder if the price will soften, while players weigh whether holding firm is worth the risk of a delayed start. What stands out most is how unpredictable this offseason has become. Names that many assumed would be signed quickly are still available, and teams that looked aggressive early have slowed their pace. That uncertainty creates opportunity, but it also creates tension. Fans want clarity. Front offices want leverage. Players want security. Somewhere in the middle, deals will eventually get done. As the Dodgers continue to be mentioned among potential destinations, it is important to separate noise from reality. Being linked to a player does not mean an agreement is close. It means the organization is doing its homework, monitoring the market, and staying prepared in case conditions shift. That readiness has been a defining trait of this front office for years, and it is why Los Angeles remains relevant in every major conversation. The bigger picture is that baseball free agency is no longer just about talent evaluation. It is about timing, economics, and strategy. Long-term deals carry enormous upside, but also significant downside, and teams are more aware of that than ever before. As long as the market remains unsettled, speculation will continue, and every new report will feel like a potential turning point. The reality, though, is that these negotiations are complex, layered, and often far quieter behind the scenes than they appear on the surface. As this waiting game stretches on, it starts to reshape how teams internally evaluate their own rosters. Front offices are constantly asking themselves whether chasing one massive contract is the smartest move, or if spreading resources across multiple needs gives them a better chance to compete over the long haul. That debate is especially relevant for teams with championship expectations, because the margin for error is thin. One miscalculated deal can limit flexibility for years, while the right move can extend a competitive window far beyond what most organizations ever experience. For the Dodgers, this balance has always been about maximizing elite talent without boxing themselves into a corner. The organization has built a reputation for pairing star power with depth, making sure that injuries or slumps do not completely derail a season. That philosophy naturally affects how they approach someone like Bo Bichette. The talent is undeniable, but the commitment goes far beyond what happens on the field in year 1 or year 2. It is about how that contract looks in years 7, 8, or 9, when younger players are due for raises and the roster needs constant refreshing. Around the league, other teams are facing similar crossroads. Some clubs see this moment as their best chance to strike, believing that one impact bat can push them from contender to favorite. Others are more hesitant, recognizing that the current market is inflated and that patience could be rewarded. That difference in philosophy is exactly why the market feels uneven right now. Interest exists, but alignment is rare, and until those two things meet, progress will be slow. Another factor that cannot be ignored is how competitive windows influence decision-making. A team that believes it can win immediately may be more willing to accept the risk of a longer deal. A team still building toward the future might hesitate, knowing that a massive contract could limit their ability to adapt as prospects develop. In that sense, free agency becomes a reflection of where an organization believes it truly stands, not just where it hopes to be. There is also the human side of all this. Players want stability, respect, and a clear vision for winning. When negotiations drag on, it can test patience and confidence. At the same time, holding firm can pay off if even one team decides that now is the moment to push all its chips to the center. That tension is what defines high-stakes free agency, and it is playing out in real time once again. From a fan perspective, especially in a market like Los Angeles, the speculation can feel exhausting. Every rumor sparks excitement or concern, and every quiet day feels like missed opportunity. But the reality is that front offices operate on timelines very different from the daily news cycle. Conversations happen quietly, numbers shift subtly, and decisions are often made after weeks of internal debate rather than public pressure. What makes this particular offseason stand out is how interconnected everything feels. One signing alters another team's strategy. One rejection changes leverage elsewhere. It is a constant ripple effect, and teams like the Dodgers remain alert because they understand how quickly circumstances can change. Being prepared matters just as much as being aggressive. As spring training approaches, the clock becomes louder, even if no one admits it publicly. Players want to be settled. Teams want clarity. Rosters need structure. Eventually, compromises are made, and what once seemed impossible suddenly becomes reality. Until then, all that exists is speculation, analysis, and the slow burn of anticipation. For now, the Dodgers sit in a familiar position, watching, evaluating, and staying flexible. Whether they ultimately enter the final stages of this market or pivot elsewhere, the approach remains the same. Stay disciplined, trust the process, and be ready when the moment truly arrives. In an off-season defined by patience and uncertainty, that mindset might be the most valuable asset of all. As the off-season continues to unfold at this slow and deliberate pace, it forces teams to reassess not just who they want, but how badly they truly need to make a move right now. There's a clear contrast between urgency and patience. and that tension is shaping every discussion behind closed doors. Some organizations feel the pressure building with each passing week, while others are comfortable letting the market come to them, trusting that restraint can sometimes be just as powerful as action. For a franchise like the Dodgers, this moment is less about panic and more about precision. The front office has shown time and time again that it values optionality. Keeping pathways open allows them to pivot quickly if conditions change, whether that means jumping into a conversation late or walking away entirely if the cost no longer makes sense. That approach can be frustrating for fans who crave instant headlines, but it has also been a major reason for sustained success. The ongoing discussions around elite infield talent highlight how complex roster building has become. It is no longer enough to simply add a great player. Teams have to consider defensive alignment, clubhouse chemistry, future extensions, and how younger players fit into the picture. Every move creates a chain reaction, and the smartest organizations are thinking several steps ahead, not just about the upcoming season, but about the next several years. There's also a broader shift happening across baseball, where teams are increasingly cautious about long-term risk. Contracts stretching close to a decade can look reasonable on day one, then feel burdensome much sooner than expected. That reality has made negotiations more layered, with teams pushing for flexibility and players pushing for security. Finding common ground in that environment is never easy, especially when expectations on both sides are sky high. From the Dodgers' point of view, staying competitive every season requires more than one big signing. It requires depth, adaptability, and the ability to weather unexpected challenges. Injuries, slumps, and surprises are part of the game, and building a roster that can absorb those shocks is just as important as landing a marquee name. That philosophy naturally influences how aggressive the team is willing to be at any given moment. As conversations continue across the league, there's a sense that momentum could shift quickly. One decision, one agreement, can change the tone overnight. Teams that seemed quiet can suddenly become active, and players who appeared far apart from a deal can close the gap rapidly. That unpredictability is what keeps everyone watching closely, even when news is scarce. For now, the Dodgers remain in that familiar space of calculated patience. They are neither all in nor completely detached, but positioned to respond when the landscape becomes clearer. In an off-season defined by uncertainty, that flexibility keeps every possibility on the table, and it ensures that the story is still very much unfolding rather than reaching any kind of final chapter. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Whispers are swirling around Dodger Stadium, and the rumor mill is working overtime. Sources close to the Los Angeles Dodgers front office suggest that manager Dave Roberts has received an unmistakable ultimatum. With a roster valued in the billions, losing is simply not an option. The message, insiders claim, was delivered with a rare mix of urgency and exasperation, signaling that patience from ownership might be wearing thin. While Roberts has long been respected for his calm demeanor and steady leadership, the recent conversations hint at a tension simmering just beneath the surface. Fans and analysts alike are dissecting what this could mean for the Dodgers' strategy moving forward. With such a star-studded lineup, expectations have always been sky high, but the tone of this latest warning seems to suggest that even a minor underperformance could trigger serious consequences. Questions are now being raised about how Roberts will navigate the pressure, especially when every decision, from lineup choices to bullpen management, is likely to be scrutinized under a microscope. The idea that billion-dollar talent comes with zero tolerance for failure is a narrative that, if true, could redefine the Dodgers' internal dynamics. Inside sources hint that this is not just about wins and losses, but about messaging to the players themselves. The front office reportedly wants to ensure that everyone on the roster understands the stakes. Mediocrity is unacceptable, and championship-caliber performance is the minimum expectation. It's a delicate balance, as Roberts must maintain trust and morale in the clubhouse while delivering results under an intense spotlight. While it's unclear how this ultimatum will affect day-to-day operations, speculation is rampant. Some insiders suggest it could lead to more aggressive moves in trades or lineup adjustments, while others believe Roberts' leadership style might evolve to meet the newfound demands. What is certain is that the Dodgers, with their unparalleled talent and the weight of ownership's expectations, are entering a phase where pressure is no longer just part of the job. It is the job. As whispers turn into headlines, the baseball world is watching, wondering if Roberts can turn the weight of a billion-dollar roster into the gold standard of victory. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.